welcome back to the safe room. I'm your host, the President, John Williams. I am back, yes, with another episode, guys. 2022 just started, but why do I feel like I just want the year to end right now? Like, it's just been a pain, but you know what? We gonna push through. We gonna push through. And today, guys, this has been long anticipated. I've been trying to get this specific group. I've been trying to get representatives for this group for who knows? I've lost track at this point. But today I have Flaunt It, and today I have two representatives I want to welcome. First, I know this person very well because we work on the same project. So having her here today on the podcast for the first time is also great. First, I want to introduce Shenali. Shenali, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to be here. Yeah, my name is Shenali. I'm just looking forward to the podcast.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. The second person we have, I want to make sure I'm getting my facts right. If not, forgive me. I believe she was on a podcast, or I think back in 2021. Was it called "Let's Talk Big Things"? I just want to
Yeah,
make sure.
let's talk big things with Kiriatu, how insane. Yeah.
Yeah. So like honestly, to be honest, when Chanelli told me about, hey, I'm able to get this person on your podcast, and I realized, wait, wasn't she on that podcast too? So I'm like perfect because I heard that episode, and you spoke so eloquent and so intelligent, everything. Honestly, so ladies and gentlemen, I have Richelle as well. How are you?
Hi everyone, my name is Richelle. Also really excited to be here.
Perfect. Sounds perfect. So, guys, today we have a pretty good conversation. I'm here with Chanel and Rochelle, and we're going to talk about a little bit about Flaunt It. If you guys don't know, then it's okay. No hates. Maybe you need to do your research, but no hate. But all you need to know, they are killing it. Like they are at the top of their game. We're gonna go a bit into their background, what they've done so far. Just the overall process, and we're also gonna have a conversation on self worth and how that's really important to women as well. Now, see, I wanted to talk about this separately, but I thought, you know what, I don't know shit. I'm gonna keep it a buck. So like, I need some help. So that's why I was able to get Chanel and Rochelle to kind of ease me into the conversation. Because listen, for all the guys out there, like we could say we know what self worth is to a woman and such, but we really wouldn't. We really don't know. We really don't know when it comes out of their perspective. That's where like you start to understand more. And that's what we're here for. We're here to open up the field, have an honest conversation. No opinions are gonna get judged or ridiculed. Nothing like that. This is a safe space. This is a safe room. That's what we're here about. So, are you guys ready?
Let's
Yeah,
go.
let's do it.
Okay, perfect, perfect. So, I kind of want to get into like the nitty gritty, which is flaunted. So, you guys have really started something special here. You've really provided a foundation for women, whether it's just women in general, people of color for women as well. And I just want to know like why flaunt it specifically? Like when was like the moment that this creation, this movement, like you told yourself, or it was either a collection of you where it's like, yeah, you know what? This is how we want to perceive things. This is what we want to push as like the message moving forward. When was that moment?
For us, like the biggest thing that we've kind of been focusing on is representation. So, because a big thing for women is that, like for women of color specifically, is that a lot of times when we see people in the media or TV shows, whatever the role models we grew up with, or whatever whoever we see in the media, whatever it is, like they aren't really representative of how we look, right, and how we are of individuals. So I think that's a big part of our movement, and just making sure everyone feels like, hey, like that person looks like me, and that's okay. Like it's okay to not all, we're not all, we don't all fit to the European beauty standard, and that's okay. That doesn't mean we're not beautiful, right? So I think that's kind of the core, at the core of Flaunt It. But in terms of us, like for me personally, I joined Flaunt It back in 2019, I believe. So I joined, honestly, when I joined, there wasn't a specific reason I joined. It was kind of just like, I was like, you know what, like this seems like a pretty cool thing, and I support the movement, and was consistently going to the events, and I definitely saw how everything worked, and I wanted to be a part of it, and I would definitely want to be, or at least a bigger part of it. So I was like, you know what, let me just try this out and see how it goes. And it's just been a journey from there, and it's just been so much growth for the movement as a whole, and as individuals on the team. Like we've definitely all grown so much. So I think that kind of, I don't know if that answers your question directly, but that definitely is at the core of the movement.
And just to bounce off what Shenali was talking about, and filling in that space that we really needed when it comes to representation overall, right? And I feel like, especially in the Canadian context, a lot of the media that we consume is not Canadian and is not representative of what, at least the melting pot, or the quote unquote melting pot of what Toronto looks like, for us to be able to create those spaces. But then also from like half of our team basically being from Jane and Finch, and knowing what the representation is like for that, and seeing kind of like what the external media has to say about us in a lot of those spaces. It's also a way of us reclaiming ourselves and our identities back, and taking our own narratives into our own hands. And I joined Flaunt It officially as a core team member 2020 in August. But I was like a community member and an ambassador before that. The reason why I love the work that Flaunt It does is because there's like a lot of things that are missing, and I feel like performative action when it comes to representation, and pushing women, especially women of color and non-binary folks, towards the realm of self-actualization and self-love is really performative in a lot of spaces, because they know like, oh well, if we tell them to love themselves and we love them, then they're going to support us, and a lot of that work is not actually what they're doing. Whereas for Flaunt It, like, we're a full team of women of color, and that's really important because we're representing the women that we want to help the most.
Yeah, wow, that's great hearing from both of you, especially how you guys are like relatively new to Flaunt It, which is pretty interesting how you guys are really catched on immediately to the message as a whole. So like I think that's beautiful. And again, you guys have been doing such great work in the community, and I love how it's more than just like saying, oh, you guys need to express your self worth and like your self love. It's more than just saying it. There has to be action aware behind it. You know, we talk about how in today's society, everyone's talk about there needs to be awareness. That there needs to be awareness, more awareness, which is nothing wrong behind that. But you know, behind awareness, there should be at least an action plan that you know establish or implement. So I like how you two guys kind of went on that aspect of how Flaunt It is more than just saying things with their words, but showing it, you know, with their actions, whatever it is, through your events or anything you guys use like as a symbol to self love and self worth for women, and more representation as well, and inclusivity. So I find that so great to hear, and I think that's really great. How would you say it was like really crucial that you know you wanted Flaunt It, you know, to get off the ground? Like, did you feel like this was something that was you could have built upon too, but it, like there was a limit to it, or was it like when you guys came on that you wanted to like you know make sure everything was like, okay, we want to like go straight to the sky, like sky's the limit, like we can do anything with this, and we could take it as far as we want. When you two joined Flaunt It, did you guys have that perception of, you know what, I'm just gonna like stay in the background, try to see if I can understand like what's going on and what you guys are doing? Or did you have that persuasion of like, no, like I want to go out there and like really make a difference for this organization?
I think for us, everything is impossible until somebody does it. And I feel like because we never seen anything like Flaunt It before, there would have been doubts and like speculation of it not working. But I feel like um, everybody on our team, current core team members and also past core team members, I feel like we're also driven to not fail in any aspect of our lives. We brought that to Flaunt It and we're like, okay, well, we can't fail. Like, there's no choice but to succeed. And I feel like, and Shenali can speak to this more, but I feel like in the past, like from like the ending of 2020 to all of 2021, like I feel like a lot of the work that we were doing kind of came into abundance and flourished with the work that we were doing. And like we are so like driven to actually push forward, and I feel like our mandate is very much to the point of like creating self-love and self-care, which is something that we should do every single day. It's easy for us to not get carried away or stray away from our purpose and our mission statement overall. But Shenali can like talk more about that for sure.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with everything Richelle said, and just to go off that as well, like I think definitely like the year of 2021 showed us a lot about Flaunt It, because everything just like everything just went exceeded our expectations, right? Like the year was amazing. Like so we had so much going on, which was definitely busy considering like our team is we're most of us are students or working full time and stuff like that. So balancing that was a bit definitely a challenge, but we got through it. But in terms of like developing the movement, one thing I wanted to say was that like our movement is constantly growing and constantly changing and constantly evolving as well, because that's why like we always have our yearly messages as well, because it's not from year to year like everything changes, right? So I think we still have so much changing and going on, changes going on, because we're constantly growing from our whatever is going on in our own life, like our backgrounds, our academia, and then just being a part of the community as well. Like for example, like last year we had our internship that launched, right? And I think for that, like one of the biggest things for us was just like seeing the ways that we can support women in the community and like in Jane and Finch and in other marginalized communities as well, right? So I think there's definitely a core at the movement, but it's constantly developing and evolving as we go.
Yeah, that's honestly sounds perfect. And I love how again there's a structure in place. You guys are not like the type of group where like, we're just kind of going for whatever kind of hits. So let's say if you come up with an idea that's like, okay, let's just rock with it to see how everlasting it is. Like you guys really have a set milestone on how you want to, go with things, how things should be run, how things should be planned. And you're always looking out for the community, which is so important because I feel like there's a lot of, people who do stuff for the community. And if maybe they get a bigger platform where people get to hear their message, sometimes they may drift away from where they actually came from or what they were actually doing the work to begin with. But I feel like you guys are continuously growing and expanding and where people are hearing your name, they're hearing your message, but you're still sticking to those core values and that mandate. So I think that's absolutely flawless. And again, I really appreciate how you guys really work together in this, team mindset. Because again, like sometimes working in a team mindset can be very difficult because everyone's going to share different values and ideologies about certain things. And you may have some like conflict of interest for sure. But I really love how there's a lot of love. Like honestly, like I wish that I could be part of a team and there's just so much love and like just adorness, like whatever you could think about. Like, honestly, so I'm really like loving the vibe both of you guys are giving me right now.
Thank you. And also like for our team, it's really a sisterhood because and like I when you expect to go into like nonprofit or grassroots spaces, you expect everyone to kind of have conflicting kind of ideas, but like we're all so in tune with what our goals are. That's not even something that really happens too deeply. Like obviously we're all human and we all have different, things that we want to push through, but for the most part, we kind of like flip off what our individual mindset is and we really do know that Flaunt It is bigger than any single individual a part of the team. Like it is a movement that needs to sustain after like for years, right? And I feel like a lot of the things that we say is like, how can Flaunt It be sustained after if we leave, like after we're gone, right? And like that's really important because if you get your egos caught up in the work that you're doing, no work gets done ever, like at all.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like definitely that's something we've learned over time as well, is that we need to make sure that Flana is running beyond us, right? Because at the end of the day, the whole movement is beyond us, right? It's about, everyone we support and all the work, everyone we come across. So I completely agree with Richelle said.
Listen, anyone who's trying to build a business or an organization, listen to what these two just said, okay? Put your egos to the side, okay? All right, put it to the side. It's all about the main message. So again, beautifully said from both of you. I kind of want to flip the script because I know we talked a lot of like positivity, but I have to ask, and again, it's okay if you guys don't want to answer it. Again, this was just something that came into mind. Was there a point where, whether it's maybe someone that you know, or maybe you just heard some feedback, that people are a little bit skeptical of Flaunted in terms of like what it possibly could do? Did they think that, you know what, this is just probably another organization that's just gonna be in the community, but not really have that much of a, community impact? Did you feel some people felt like, oh, like an all women's organization, like how is that going to work? Again, I'm not trying to stir the pot. I'm really not trying to bring any conflict to the table, but I've personally experienced myself where I've been in a team setting and I hear outside reaction where people are like, "Oh, you're part of this, but like, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure people are gonna like really hold into what you're trying to say? Are you feeling like it's something effective?" I just want to ask to both of you again, whoever wants to answer first. Was there any moments, whether it's outside reaction or for maybe someone else that kind of had skepticism in terms of what Flaunt It could really do?
I think in every organization, especially being young, it comes up as like skepticism always comes like follows when you're doing something good, right? And if people aren't talking about you when you're doing something good, that means you're clearly not doing anything worth talking about. But I think one of the things that we talk about a lot as a team is the fact that we're all young women running an organization, and the oldest of us is 25. You know what I mean? And I think when you have that and all of us are also students and things like that, I feel like a lot of the things come like, oh, they're just little girls running an organization, opposed to being like, these are young women that are making tangible change in their community. And it becomes kind of frustrating, especially when you're working in spaces, but that's just for women in all capacity. If you're a woman trying to run an organization or run a business or try to like level up or move up in any space, like ageism is a big thing. But then also because of the community that we represent, being from Jane and Finch, I feel like when we talk to external organizers, it's not something that's explicitly said, but like you can tell they're kind of like, okay, well, they're just a group from Jane and Finch, now what, and I think now, like, because Flaunt It didn't launch on a big idea of like taking over the world or something, I think it started with good intentions and being able to highlight young women with like Flaunt It Fridays, and being able like intrinsic and extrinsic like photo series, when we developed into this thing that we are right now, which is nowhere near where we want to be. But like when we developed into something bigger where we are right now, I feel like a lot of people, we snuck up on people. So like we didn't really give them a lot of time to talk. But like now the biggest thing that I've seen and we talk about a lot is the ageism and the sexism that comes with the work that we do. And when people look at us and they're like, oh, they're just little kids. But Shenali, what about you?
Yeah, I definitely agree, especially on the point about the ageism and sexism, especially because like we're such a young group of individuals. It's definitely we've definitely had our encounters with ageism. Like I think sometimes we enter spaces and people just see us as like youth, just doing a little project or whatever it is. But like it's so much bigger than that, right? And I think that's what like the last year taught us as well, is that like the movement is so much bigger than that, right? And like we all bring so much to the table as a team. Like we're all, we're scholars, we're working in charity organizations, we're researchers, we're all these different things, right? So I think a lot of times what happens that we just keep going. Honestly, we at the end of the day, like I know if there's people who still have skepticism about us, like we're gonna prove them wrong, right? So, and we're also not here for those people, right? We're here for the individuals that come into our spaces and leave feeling better. Like that's what we're really here for. So I think, yeah, what Rochelle said, like there's definitely going to be skepticism wherever you go, whatever organization it is, but just gotta prove them wrong with time, right? Just gotta show them, it doesn't matter what they say, it's gonna keep going. And this movement is definitely bigger than us, so it doesn't matter what they have to say about us.
And we're not worried about the haters. If you're
Hey,
mad, stay mad.
block the
Period.
haters away. No, that was put very well. And Rashad, I love your response. How like you guys kind of just snuck up, and I feel like a lot of the, whether it's an organization or anyone who has like a platform with a really powerful message, it's always those people who they're not trying to do it for like to get like a buzz or get people to be talking that much, but more like we just stick to the work, we work together, unified as a team. And again, and sometimes it takes maybe months or even years to get to that point where like, okay, people are talking about us, but like it doesn't change how like we personify ourselves. Like we're not gonna be like, oh, we got so much people on us. Like maybe we should do this and that. It's like no, like you guys still again have a structure and you guys still stick to a plan. And again, perfectly, I just think what you guys are doing, it's gonna keep growing. It's really gonna keep growing. I don't just say this because like it's my job as a podcast. It's like I really tune into you guys, into the stuff that you do. I kid you not. If it wasn't for the stupid pandemic, panoramic, whatever people want to call it these days, I would have been there at that magazine launch. 100%. I would have been there. But
We appreciate it. But also it was a snowstorm that day too. Like we were really surprised that that many people were able to come out anyway. Cause like the one day we had an event was the one day we had a snowstorm. And we're like, oh, word? Okay, cool.
hey,
Thank
Mother Nature sometimes wants to play around with the weather. It's like, oh, you know what? On your special occasion, I'm gonna give you just hail and brimstone and everything like
you.
that. But speaking on the magazine, that was actually my next point. You guys have launched that. First off, congratulations. Round of applause for that. Um, for both of you, how did that feel? Was that like a crowning achievement for Flaunt It? Did you feel like, oh, this was something that was highly promoted and was super excited to launch? Or are you feeling like, you know what, this is just the beginning? Like we got more stuff in the bag. Like you guys don't even see nothing yet. Like I'm just curious, how was that moment for both of you separately?
Well, I think it was definitely a big moment for Flaunt It as a whole. Like I think the magazine launch is something that, it started off as just something we kind of an idea that kind of just shouted out, but to really see it come together was definitely great, and having the whole like launch was definitely amazing because we were able to share the work with everybody, and it was so great like sharing the space with the artists who also contributed to the magazine, and we all really enjoyed the event, and we were so happy, our people showed up, even though it was snowstorm, they were there, they came through, they brought the energy, and like I definitely loved seeing the ways that everyone was connecting throughout the event, right? Like I definitely saw like people, especially during a time of like COVID where, everyone's kind of doing their own thing. It was definitely great seeing everyone come together, people from the community, seeing familiar faces, people seeing like old mentors or, organizations they work with, or, people just making friends. Like there was I remember I was just, at the collection table, and then I just heard a group of girls. They were like, "Hey, like, oh, like, what area you live in? Like, we should definitely meet up, like, when it's safe." And like, they became friends at the event, right? And I think that's part of like what we do, right? Like bringing people together. So that was definitely a really nice moment to see, and the whole event was honestly, it went great.
Yeah, and I think like we're not going to stop there, right? Like I feel like there's so many things that we want to achieve as an organization, and I feel like the magazine was like our first big step in something that was, it's like tangible, that people can take home and have a piece of Flaunt It with them outside of our collection. Because like even like in the past, like we have our clothing line, now we have magazine, like there's so many things that we are doing that I don't think when Serena started the organization like 5 years ago she would have thought that we would be here, even though like, or maybe she did, and maybe everything's just in divine timing. But I think one of the things that I can definitely say for sure is that we're going to keep going, and like we can't cap ourselves at just having a magazine. Next thing you know, we can go bigger and higher and soar a lot further than that.
Yeah, and definitely about the magazine too. It's like we never really we do have the collection that really, embodies what we do, but also like the magazine, like you're able to really read through and hear the stories that we've been hearing, and share those stories and really shed light on it, and all the amazing artwork in the community, and the artists, right? So I think that was the biggest thing too, is that, being able to actually take home the magazine, and like being able to read through it, being able to mark it up, being able to like write in it, right? And like, because our values are also like, we want everybody to feel a part of themselves in the magazine as well, right? So just having that piece with them, I think is definitely a big thing for us.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You guys, honestly, I can see you guys in like in the next 5 or 10 years, just like this giant mega house, like just dominant force in like the community, just that's constantly, building upon like your guys' platform, just really pushing out the message for women empowerment and self love and self worth. And whatever you guys do, whether it's launching a magazine, a collection, whatever you have in mind. Again, I think you guys really have something special like in the making. It's already in the making. It's already beginning. The pieces are already there, and like it's just continued to grow and grow and grow. And again, the magazine was definitely like a very great moment for you guys. I'm pretty sure, and it was just something great to see. I actually tuned into I think it was the IG live for it. It was really great. Having all those supporters there is amazing. And you guys mentioned as well about networking, which is very crucial. You know, a lot of people in the community feel like the best way to get something jumping is if an idea always comes to mind. And sometimes it may not. And maybe you need like, that support, or you need to establish some good relationships with some people in your community to kind of get you on the right track to get the ball flowing. And I think if there's more like outlets for people to learn more about networking, how to network properly, so that way they can find the right people to connect with, which I think is something that is essential to everyday life. I think whether it's through Flaunt It, whether you guys do it through like maybe a seminar or like some type of way, I think that would be exceptional. It would be phenomenal for you guys as a whole. Moving to my next question. So I know again at earlier on in the beginning of the podcast, I mentioned that maybe some people know about Flante. Maybe if you're listening, you know about Flante, but maybe there's that one person that's not really sure about what you guys do. So I just want you guys to give me your best take about if you meet someone who wants to know more about Flante, like what would be your first response? Like how would you tell them in a way that kind of explains what you guys are, what your message is, and why you should be supporting us?
Um, Definitely a lot. There's a lot of different, things we do, and we have a lot going on. So I think it also depends which space we're entering and, what the intention is. But generally speaking, like I guess kind of our general introduction is what we usually want people to know about who Flaunt It is that, it's a grassroots youth led, and that part is really important to us too, because we really are grassroots and youth led, right? Grassroots and youth led arts collective that fosters self love and highly esteemed representation of women, right? And I think, and something else we also say is like through artistic activism and community building, and those are big pieces for us, right? And I know it's a mouthful, but it definitely embodies like the work we do as like what we do is artistic activism, right? Like we bring our messages into different spaces, and a big part of the magazine was dismantling the table. I can let Richelle speak on that more, but that's definitely a big part of what we do, as well as community building. Like we want to build our community, and I'm bringing up the internship again, and I constantly bring up the internship, but the internship was community building, right? Because we had 7 interns, and we were able to really help themselves, further themselves, like professionally, creatively, as individuals, like personal growth. Like we really were able to help them grow and help them develop over time. So I think there's a lot of different stuff that happens going on It. So it does depend, but yeah, I guess that's all I have to say for that. Richelle, you could take it away. I don't know if I fully answered the question or not, but
Hey, listen,
that's
you did answer it. Don't worry. Again, I totally get your take, Shenali, on how like it depends on the space. So like don't even stress about it, Rochelle.
Yeah, I think for any young person that wants to be a part of Flaunt It, I think one of the first things that I want to say is that Flaunt is a space where you can be authentically yourself, evaded from any judgment that may be perceived in the outside space. I feel like because Flaunt It really works in an equitable lens, and we focus on making sure that we're creating safe spaces for people, and like the thing is, like, I feel like for a lot of folks, they think like, oh, a safe space is just a specific room, but no, it's the people that make it up. And our whole goal is to create safe spaces for youth. And like, it's not just women, but like we prioritize ourselves for women and non-binary folks of color. And like what Shenali was saying, like our theme for the end of the latter part of 2021, but then also going into the next 5 years is about creating space and dismantling the table. And I feel like for anybody that wants to work in disrupting colonial spaces, the Flaunt It is a space for you. And like what we meant by dismantling the table, which was the cover of our magazine this year, where it was like a table thrown to the side and women standing in front of it around it, was basically just us saying, when we are asking for a quote unquote seat at the table or for someone to let us into the room, at whose expense, right? And like, I feel like a lot of the time when we're like, yo, I need a seat at the table, it's whose table is it? Right. And it's usually a table that's set up by white folks or really affluent white people that are creating kind of like little crumbs for us to be able to feel like we're doing something or feel like we're in a space that we're being respected and valued. But that's really not the case for a lot of the times. And what Flaunt It is really trying to focus on is pushing the idea of what philanthropy is and pushing the idea of what space building and space creating is. And I think any youth that wants to be a part of that and make tangible change in their community, Flaunt It is the space for you, because anything that you feel like you need to do to dismantle the table or to disrupt the system, Flaunt It is going to support you. And our core team members are going to support you in any capacity that we can, because the whole point of that is for us to know that the sky's the limit for Black and Brown and people of color and Indigenous people of all genders and sexes, right? And I feel like that's the main point at the end of the day for Flaunt It, is to be able to everyone to know that you can have a Flaunt It, like you can create your own space and know that it will flourish.
Yeah, and I think like that's one of the things that has been from the start is that, we always created space, right? Like, oh, we aren't given opportunities for whatever barriers, like, members of the community face, whoever it is, like, okay, we create the opportunities, we create the space for us. We, like we throw a table aside and we sit on the ground like that's the whole thing, is that, spaces weren't created for us, like opportunities weren't created for us. They weren't meant for us, right? So it's always been about, changing that, right? And like changing that idea and, creating our own opportunities and, encouraging women to, go after what they want, right? At the end of the day, like that's what it is, right? So I think that's definitely been like a biggest thing for us too. Is just, if if there whatever barrier you face, like if they didn't create this, the space wasn't created for you. It wasn't created for us to grow and prosper. It was always meant, to be under someone and for our light to be dimmed, right? So I think the biggest thing is just, create your own space. You have an idea, come to us, we'll help you create it. Like same thing with the magazine, all the artists like showcase, their writing, their art, all these things that, they may have not been able to do so before.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what really caught to me was the whole Eurocentric take as well. Because again, like we do live in a world where everything's kind of based off of Eurocentrism. How you see acts of like tokenism or affirmative action in workplaces, where if there's like if we don't have a single black female or a person of color, indigenous, then like we'll just have like either add a person or have a department. But again, it's not really in the sense of like you're highlighting the person in terms of like their skill set, their voice, or what they're actually capable in terms of like their artistic value. It's kind of there for like impression and reputation values as well. So that was the one thing that really caught to me. But yeah, I think what both you guys said really, you guys hit it on the nail in terms of like what Flaunt It really is and how you would really explain it to someone. Because again, for me as a male, even a black male, it's like I can't say that, oh, I'm a feminist or I know everything about women or just like that. I can only just observe with my eyes and really just ask questions and stuff like that. And I think one of you mentioned about it's not just for like women, it's for like non-binaries as well. And I'm curious if like you ever had like any like males or like any men come up and ask you guys about what you guys do, or maybe been curious in the work you guys done as well. Because to me, again, like I feel like I still have a lot to learn in terms of like what you guys do and what your message is. but I'm willing to learn and I'm willing to like be part of the journey just to see you guys grow as a whole. So that's just my personal take. I don't know if you guys just want to like butt in.
Yeah, it's actually funny because we laugh about it kind of all the time and saying like our physical spaces look like really women based or like and like it's like, oh, there's no men in the space. But then when you see like our collection, a large chunk of our supporters who actually are like, okay, like I don't want to impede on space, but how can I support our men? um so like a really good base of our support systems are men from the community that go out of their way to, while they know they can't be in a lot of the spaces, because we do prioritize having safe spaces for women, and sometimes, you know, having men in the space can be triggering for some women and non-binary folks, and it's about creating safe spaces for women because there aren't a lot of safe spaces for us. But men recognize that and that support us, they recognize that and they appreciate that and they love that about us. And at the end of the day, they're like, okay, I'm going to support another way. So I'm going to donate, or I'm going to buy a magazine, or I'm going to buy this Lux collection and support Flaunt It any way that they can so more programming can happen. And like, yeah, so men are interested in Flaunt It and want to know what we do, and they're completely like understanding of the way and system that we set, like the way our system works and how we run things.
Yeah, and I think even for our magazine launch, like a lot of people who showed up were men, right? And like we had a lot of men show up, and a lot of them are, you know, our friends, our supporters, people have been here for years, and you know, a lot of we definitely do work in a lot of capacity with men as well. So I think it's not to say like yeah, our space isn't made for men, but you know, it definitely we always have open arms to you know, men who want to support our movement and want to, you know, a lot of men come into space too, wanting to learn about how they can support women in their lives, right? So I think um, that's definitely a big thing, and seeing the ways that you know they can learn from our spaces too, and learn what they can do to make you know women feel safer and empower them and things like that. So it's definitely great seeing the ways that you know the men in our life have come and showed up for Flaunt It and showed the ways that they can definitely support us in our work.
Well, that's excellent to hear because I won't lie. Like, I got a little nervous at first. I'm thinking, like, yo, should I be like going super hard in the support? Someone gonna call me out, thinking like, yo, like, who's this guy right here? Like, tone it down a bit. But it's great to hear that you guys like open up to like to the men out there, especially whether it's like not again not to disrupt any of your spaces, but they're just for like supportive action as well. Um, I kind of want to move into some new discussion on self worth because I feel like in the time span we've been, especially with this pandemic, that a lot of people are trying to discover what their self worth is, or even like self care in terms of what they want to do or how they should treat themselves. And I brought you two on because I really wanted to speak it from the women's perspective as well. Like all I know for me, when I do like self care, the most I probably do is like I listen to music. Like that's it. And like I don't know that's just enough. And I know like when it compares to like to women, I hear like they do like a whole sometimes it's like a spa day. Maybe it's just like I'm just gonna relax, do something for me. Like it's really levels to it. And like I honestly want to personally understand, not because like I'm stubborn, but like I find it very intriguing, especially the difference between men and women and how they treat themselves and how they try to take care of themselves, just like their mental health and their wellness, or whether it's self worth in terms of like realizing how much value and significance you have and what you could possibly do with that potential. So again, I'm not putting you two on the spot to go and share a full experience and everything, but like I'm just curious again because from a guy to a woman, I want to open up the conversation.
Yeah, I think the perception of what self-care is for men and women is so like construed by the way that people view both men and women. Because like I know dudes that have a full skincare routine that take the time off and do all that kind of thing, and I think it's just on a person by person basis. Like, I can speak for like myself and probably Shenali, like we're busy like a lot of the time, so like sitting down to have like a spa day doesn't happen often, and it would be nice and it would be something that um could happen. But I think the priority on mental health is the main difference between men and women, I think. And I think because society has pushed men to believe that their mental health is not valid, they also believe that taking time for that self-care is also not valid or quote unquote feminine or something that real men quote unquote shouldn't do, which is ridiculous. Because at the end of the day, like all of us are built, our minds, our whole, everything is the same except for some, differences in our bodies. But I think the way that all of our minds are literally the same, and the way that we take care of ourselves and the effort that we put in taking care of ourselves should be obviously vary to who you are and how you are. For some people, self-care is just listening to music and spending time doing that for a few hours. For a lot of people, it is going out and pampering yourself. For some people, it's shopping. And it does vary, but I think the biggest difference is just the way that society views how men deal with their feelings versus how women deal with their feelings. And I feel like the idea of excess pampering that women seemingly do comes from the idea that society thinks that's all women do is just pamper themselves, whereas they think men don't do that, and men can't do that because that's a feminine thing to do, which, like I said before, is like completely dumb and out of pocket. But Shenali, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And like we can't deny the fact that like, we all have men around us and we all have, and like I think it's also like a part of it for me is like encouraging the men in my life to like take care of themselves and because there's always a weird thing for them. It's like self-care, like skincare, like that's not for me. But no, it's for everybody, right? And so at the end of the day, at the core of self-care is taking care of yourself. Like it's, taking care of yourself and making sure you're okay, right? And like, we're always set to think like we need to always be busy and we need to always be doing something and there's always something going on, but it's really about like stepping back, right? And like stepping back and taking a moment to think about what you need, right? And like to think about the ways that you can make yourself feel better and like what really at the core end of the day, like what is it that you want to do to wind down, to bring yourself to a full stop, right? So I think it's just encouraging everyone around you to, whether that's men or women, like taking care of themselves and making sure that everyone feels like they can take a pause and take a step back. Richelle, did you want to say something? I noticed you.
Yeah, I was gonna say that also the idea of self-care has been highly monetized. And I think also like because like the duration or like the origin of what self-care is was for Black activists, primarily Black women, to take time off of activism because of obviously like the mental toll, but like it was for activists to take time away from the straining work of being activists in their community, to step back and take care of themselves because they spent so much time taking care of community, right? And I feel like this is a whole nother conversation for another day, but like the idea of like things being taken from activist communities, which is seemingly Black and Indigenous and people of color as communities, and thrown into a capitalist white space, it has become like a, oh my god, let's go shopping, oh my god, I'm gonna go to do spa, this that, and it becomes something that's like um caricaturized as what women do. But like the origin of what self-care is way more beneficial than that, and way more crucial than that, than what the idea of what self-care is right now has come to be. And I think that is something that a lot of people don't know. And if they come from the mindset of what Shenali was saying, taking a step back opposed to, oh my god, I'm gonna pamper myself, lol, then it becomes more of something that people take seriously, because self-care, everyone is a self, everyone is a person, you think therefore you are, and like you need to be able to take time to be able to do that for yourself.
If I had like a dime for any time I've worked in a workplace and someone just randomly says, "Yeah, I'm just gonna go shopping," or "I'm gonna go take a break. I'm about to go shoot some hoops," and it's just like, dude, you're just delaying your job and anything like that. Again, like I totally agree with Rochelle how like people kind of use this as like a parody. It's just like now, okay, I don't want to do this because I just don't want to. So like I'm just gonna take the time to do something else that's like more appealing to me. But like again, I love how you brought back like the historical aspect because no, it's true. It's true for Black activists at the time. Like it was for them to like stop from all the community work. And let me tell you something. Like for me, I never really ever took myself to be like, okay, if I'm just bored, I'm just gonna do this. Like if I took for self care or anything like that, it was because I was doing too much and I was going too hard. I mean, Shenali could testify to this because I feel like every time when we have like meetings for our or the workplace, I'm like doing 10,000 things and like everyone's just telling me like you need to slow down, bro. Like you're stressing yourself out. And again, I'm gonna say it on my podcast, and I don't care, us men, we can be stubborn. It's true. We can be so stubborn. We're at the point like we hear what people are trying to tell us, but we don't listen because again, it kind of stems from characteristics of like toxic masculinity. How we have this mask, I would probably say like as like quotation, a mask where you want us or we want you to view us as something like else. So like maybe you put on the mask like you want to view me as like aggressive, view me as a person that's in control of the situation, but like really again it's just an act. That's not really how I want you to view me as. But again, because of like social norms and how things society is structured, that's how you perceive yourself to be. And again, like I feel that's something that men should take into consideration and just be yourself, be authentic. Don't try to cover up for anyone in terms of like how you should treat yourself, how you should act, and how you should behave. Because again, sometimes taking self-care, taking the time to stop, relax, and really focus on your mental health and your wellness is important. Like, listen, like it's not just music for me that I listen to. Sometimes I clean. It's the weirdest type of self care, but listen, like anytime I need to relax, I clean because that is like my soothing place right there. But I think both of you guys again gave fantastic perspectives, and I think for all the men listening, I think it's really important that we actually listen to what women are saying because sometimes it's important. And again, like if you don't treat your mental health, it may lead into something dangerous, into like a more far like dangerous extreme where it's probably suicide. And like you don't want stuff like that to come into play. You don't even want to hit to that stage. So yeah, I think this was a very important conversation. I just wanted to bring it up because again, I wanted to get the sides of two perspectives just from what I've heard. And again, I can't generalize, I can't speak to all men, but like that's what I've kind of seen from like especially from majority of men, especially the people I hang out with, and having you two to share from your perspective and probably from a group of people as well, a group of women. I think it's a perfect balance for this conversation as a whole. Yeah, I know everyone listening, this was probably a very heavy topic, but I always like to like tackle things not in the sense of like who's right or wrong, but again to just hear both sides of the story. So I just want to thank Shenali and Richelle for coming on the podcast for this fantastic conversation. Thank you to both of you guys.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, thank you for having us. This was a great experience and a great talk.
Okay, first off, where can they find both of you separately, and where can they find Flaunt It for more information?
Chanel, you go.
Okay, yeah. If you want to like stay up to date with Flaunt It and learn more about us, definitely our Instagram is where we're most active. So you can find us at Flaunt It Movement on Instagram, and then you can also find our website if you want to learn more information, which is flauntit.ca. You can also find our collection there, collection on Instagram. Everything's pretty much on Instagram. So if you want to stay up to date with that, get involved, whatever the case is, definitely find us on Instagram.
And personals, Shenali. I can go. Y'all can find me at Negroella, Negroella on Instagram. That's all I really have.
Oh yeah, in terms of my personals, Shenali Dawn on Instagram, very simple. It's SHENALI_Dawn DON. So you can find me on Instagram there.
Perfect. Thank you to you both for coming on. Thank you guys for listening. Make sure you check me on Instagram at the Safe Room Podcast. Check out the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. Go check out my official soundtrack for the podcast that I dropped last year, guys. I'm telling you, I'm gonna keep saying it till the break of dawn. First Lady by yours truly on all streaming platforms. Go check it out, please. Support me, please. I work so hard on this. Please. But thank you guys for listening. I'll be back with another episode next week. I have a very special guest. If you guys been paying attention to my stories on Instagram, I think you kind of know who will be showing up next week. But if not, I'll keep it a surprise. Thank you guys for listening, and